we are going to get started. So today I'm here to introduce to you Rob Puffett, who you can already see beside me. Rob is teaching academic English and is also the academic learning advisor and associate lecturer at the Sydney campus of Central Queensland University. He's got a background in communications and he's also got a Master of Creative Enterprise, and his main interest is in creating opportunities for his students to become more autonomous learners, to self-direct their learning and to use the classroom space to explore that in the many, many ways that we can create that. So without further ado, I introduce you to Robert Puffett.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you for not choosing the 3 hours of regulation next door. I know that must have been a tough decision. I just want to start with a show of hands survey. The question is, are you certain or doubtful of your teaching? Or if you don't teach, just aspects of your work. Sorry, so the question again was, are you certain or doubtful of your teaching or aspects of your work? So just hands up for those who are fairly certain. How about doubtful? Excellent. Alright, so that's pretty much 100%. This is my disclaimer. This presentation is jam-packed and will be fast-paced, especially now that we've come back late from morning tea. I'm breaking a few rules I teach my students about presentations. There's a bit too much information on some of the slides, but that's for later reference. Hopefully you'll want a copy of these slides to take home with you. I might not get through all of it, so I've employed that journalism practice of cutting from the bottom, but then you'll be able to hopefully download the slides later. What I'm about to share with you has worked for me and with my student cohort. It's an ongoing process of adaptation to the students I teach, so hopefully there'll be something that you can take away. So the first part will be quite teacher-centric, me talking, you being passive learners, but then hopefully some of you aren't too hungover if you went to the gala dinner last night. I'll try to get you involved. So just a quick rundown. I teach at the Central Queensland Sydney campus. The majority of my students are males. I have had classes full of females, but there's been variation over time. Most are from the subcontinent, particularly India and Nepal. Many of them, it's their first time overseas, or if they have travelled, they've probably only travelled to a neighbouring country. Most are going on to masters, and as we all know, there are varied motivations for some of our students, whether it's they've come here to work, PR, or to take home a qualification, an international qualification. Now, one of the interesting things about CQU, Sydney and Melbourne, I'm not 100% sure of all the campuses, but we have PCs in all the classrooms. So I just wanted to actually ask, or do another hands-up survey. The schools that you teach at or work at, do you have PCs in all the classrooms? Okay. For everybody, for the students. Like I've got 18 computers in every classroom. So it's quite interesting in this day and age that we don't have PCs in all the classrooms. I mean, there's options, of course, tablets and so forth, bring your own device. So that aspect of CQU has really informed my teaching. Now, on the first day, I explained reverse boot camp. So we all know what boot camp is, military training. Now, this is not the office workers working out in the local park before work. This is the real deal, military training. What do? They teach you to throw a grenade, they teach you to shoot a gun, they teach you to crawl through mud under barbed wire, all popular images. But I like to go deeper with the students, so I talk about why do they shave their heads, why do they remove all their jewellery, why do they dress them all in the same clothes? And this is about stripping them of their individuality to create a team and that will follow orders, won't think, will respect the hierarchy. So I talk about that is probably similar to your education in your own country, but now we have to flip that. I've only got 10 weeks to get you battle ready. And that would often, it's a tough challenge. So it doesn't always work, but we try our best. Obviously, things like costs and stuff come into play. Another thing I do is my DE checklist. I like to get them organised from day one. The very first thing on that list is please buy a folder. I'm sick of students pulling out clumps of paper when I want to refer to a document, or at least just get a plastic envelope. We talk about things like time management, personal responsibility, other things. Because of those PCs in the room, I say, look, start the class in front of the PC. Many of them have worked, so I tell them, or we talk about, if you were at work at 9 o'clock, you sit down and just look at your manager. And they say, no, of course not. Well, I'm going to give you enough work, so there's always something for you to do. Be a self-starter. And then we go on to the course guide, and there's a couple of snippets from the course guide. The very first one is demonstrate improved autonomous learning, and in the roles of teacher and learner become independent, self-directed learners. Let's move on. Of course, I had to back up what I do in the classroom coming to the English Australia conference with some sort of theory. So I sort of started to look online and I found a couple of great ones. The gradual release of responsibility theory, the stage self-directed learning model, very fancy titles, just if you can remember one thing, the training wheels theory. We've all learned to ride a bicycle, we've all used training wheels, and when we were capable, we took the training wheels off. So that's just going from spoon-fed to independent learners. It's staged, both are staged. For example, in those first weeks, I'm giving paper copies with very explicit instructions. By the end of it, it's just an attachment, and in the body of the email, it just says "see attached." So we sort of, I gradually release responsibility. I gradually take away all that information. Now, does everyone know the movie at the bottom? The 1978 movie? Big Wednesday, correct. I refer to Big Wednesday. Big Wednesday is week 4, or actually week 9 of the 10-week course when their research essay is due, and that's the day I see them working. They're asking me, how do I reference this? What kind of format? What kind of font? What do I have to do? Actually, that whole week, the Monday, the Tuesday and the Wednesday, they're working that hard. So, obviously everything that I've said beforehand hasn't come in, hasn't resonated with them. I've given them copies of referencing guides or activities, all that, but this is when they actually work. So, I start with modelling, and that's equates to the authority stage. I give activities with options, that equates to the guide stage. Options across the skills, that equates to the facilitator, and then Big Wednesdays when I'm a consultant. So as you can see in the corner there, it's just a copy of a quiz I've created for the course guide for them to connect with the course guide, and they can get information from the course guide.